All right, Dr. Paul has come to Libertarian candidate Gary Johnson's defense on Aleppo and other pop quiz foreign policy questions the Libertarian nominee has been getting, but he has stopped short of endorsing him. Now, yesterday, I asked Johnson's running mate Bill Weld about Ron's reluctance.
Gary Johnson and I can't whine. We can't say we want help from somebody else to put us over the top. This is something we got to do the old-fashioned way, one vote at a time, and it's called doing it yourself, and that's what we're setting out to do.
All right, so what is holding Ron Paul back? The good doctor joins me now. Welcome back, Dr. Paul.
Thank you. Good to be with you, Kennedy.
We've talked about this ticket a lot on this show, and, you know, I think that you and I might have some differences. I believe in Gary Johnson's ideas. I think that he is a man of principle, and I think that he is smart. He has a good executive track record. He may not be perfect. I do have some issues with his running mate, William Weld, who seems to be cozying up to warmonger Hillary Clinton by actively campaigning against Donald Trump. He also has a personal political history with the Clintons, and I think that he is a libertarian in name. I think he made a lot of promises at the Libertarian Convention when he received the vice presidential nomination and has since gone back on them. Do you think I'm off base, being a little too hard on him?
Well, the thing of it is, you have to put some responsibility on Gary for picking him.
Yeah.
You know, he wouldn't be there if Gary hadn't picked him. So that says a whole lot. When I talk about this, especially on my staff, I says, can you imagine me picking somebody that had views that were totally different than mine and had them in my congressional office and sort of trusted them to research and to come up with ideas? No, I never had that problem. But I don't understand how there could be so much difference. And, of course, Gary doesn't have a good grasp on the foreign policy, which it was pointed out. But that in itself isn't enough. But what about this whole idea that the federal government has a right to intrude on who makes a decision about what kind of cakes are being baked? That's sort of an affront to libertarianism. So I think he's good on some issues. Yeah. I don't think he is a good standard bearer for the libertarian message.
All right, so do you think that Jill Stein, when you compare the two third-party candidates, and let's just assume a majority of the people in this country are still uncomfortable with the idea of either a Trump or Clinton presidency, so when you compare Jill Stein and Gary Johnson side by side, how do you counsel people who got into the libertarian movement because of you? How do you counsel them to vote?
Yeah. Well, I think they didn't listen to or hear the second half of what I usually say when they talk about whom do you say that they should vote for. And I said if you lean toward progressivism, just to take the votes away from this charade of the bipartisan, you know, Republican-Democrat, because that means nothing. So I said if you're more of a progressive, you ought to vote for the Green Party. But if you have libertarian views like you, Kennedy, indicate, and you have sympathy for Johnson, I would say vote for him, yeah. You know, because at least, see, I don't want to say that I'm going to defend all his position.
Yeah, you don't have
I haven't decided. Probably, I may well write your name in, for all I know. I'm not going to believe that it makes a difference on to whom I vote for, you know. But I do think, though, that if the Libertarian Party got more votes than they ever got before, and that it is explicit and clear that what they stand for is the non-aggression principle, yeah. It will be beneficial. So I say anybody that's leaning that way and they're sick and tired, everybody seems to be sick and tired of the two major candidates. Nobody, you know, it's always anti. So I think it would be worthwhile. Matter of fact, I did this after the 2008 campaign, tried to bring a coalition together of the anti-establishment. Yeah. And we talked to, at that time, it was Ralph Nader and myself and the Libertarian Party, and we tried to encourage people to vote for that party that's closer to their beliefs, but their beliefs are actually serious. Yeah. I don't think they have any basic principles on the two major candidates.
Yeah, that's why you didn't back Bob Barr in 2008.
Right, because I didn't believe he had a principled position either.
All right, so I want to ask you very quickly about Obamacare, because I know that these exchanges are failing, insurance companies are pulling out, and, you know, a lot of people who believe in limited government see that too much government has absolutely crippled our healthcare system. You know that firsthand because you are a doctor. So if you were president, what would you do to replace Obamacare, especially for people whose premiums are going up by 60% in some cases in some states?
I would return the delivery of medical care to the private sector, and things would take care of themselves. And you could do that by gradually reducing, the different programs, and that's what should be done. But to say you want to replace it with something else, I think the fact that there's a lot of information now about the insurance companies failing, maybe that's falling into the lap of those who want one-party payment, and I think that might be the danger. But it's Obamacare, and we condemn him for it, and the Democratic Congress. But just think of who the Supreme Court justice was that upheld it and made sure that it would be secure legally. And that's why I'm not too excited about voting for a candidate just because he's going to appoint a Supreme Court justice, because all kinds of things could happen.
Amen. Dr. Ron Paul, thank you for your endorsement of me. And I'm very excited to have
at
least one vote in the presidential race.
There you go.
Thanks so much. Talk to you soon. Thanks again.